Emerging on the frontiers of science, a pioneering breed of theoretical physicists and inspired inventors are challenging the way we think about harnessing the unseen forces of nature. Despite ridicule, lack of funding, and outright suppression, they are confronting an outmoded classical worldview and ushering in a monumental scientific revolution.
Most people would agree you can't get something for nothing. There's no such thing as a free lunch. And yet, we get our oxygen free from the air we breathe. We get sunlight free, and water, that used to be free until bottled drinking water came along. But what about energy? We've always had to pay for that, whether it's wood or coal, oil or electricity. It's always been the rule that you can never get back more energy than what you put in the first place. That's a fundamental law of nature. Physicists of the 19th century figured that out with the first law of thermodynamics, the conservation of energy. Maybe so. But science has come a long way since then. And laws? Well, there's never been one that hasn't been broken.
When will we be able to see free energy devices powering consumer products like this electric car? Well, they're already here. And you may be able to purchase one by the time you see this program.
In Oklahoma, where oil has been king for over a century, inventor Troy Reed has been busy in his shop constructing rotating magnetic motors that he believes will soon revolutionize how we get around.
As I was growing up, I came from a family of 8. There was 4 boys and 4 girls. I went through 3 schools here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Been way back, started back in the 30s. Went to a school called Park School, Clinton Junior High School, and Daniel Webster High School. And while I was going to school, as I was growing up, my dad died when I was 14 years old, and I've really kind of been on my own ever since. And all my life, I wanted to watch other people to do things and try to learn. And I got excited about seeing some people working one time on an old 41 Ford doing body work. I've seen some people doing some inventions, and I thought, wow, man, that's really great, really great. One of these days, maybe my life will change. And all of a sudden, I started having different things in my head trying to tell me a few things, and I bypassed it. That's what was really strange about it. So back in 1959, I was working for a little company called Tulsa Screw Products. I was a machinist for them. And the strangest thing happened to me that morning. It was on a Monday morning. I went back to the machine, and we had a coffee break. And after the coffee break, we went back to the machine, and I was working on the machine, and all of a sudden, there was like a frosty type color, and in this frosty was some kind of motor, and it went away. I thought, man, I must have had a rough night. Well, maybe it had something to do with the coffee. 6 months later, it came back again, but buddy, it was clear. It was the old, what they call the old wooden prototype. It was the old magnetic motor that I got out here in the warehouse, and that's really how it started. So I kind of put it on hold. Now finally in my life, built it later on in my life. And now I realize what the technology was coming to me on this motor about, hey, things do work. So that from the big old motor, just kept on developing other little projects that I had. But what's really unique about it, when I was 8 years old, I'll never forget it, there was a circle. It was the strangest thing. It happened for about 8 years. There was a circle like this, and it kept spinning, just kept spinning. And it was like that I was trying to go into this tunnel, but I could never get to the other end of it. And it wasn't just one night, it was every night, and it lasted for about 8 months. Finally, it disappeared. Then that's when things started to come clear to me on, I was always tinkering around with little batteries. As I was going through school, I fixed radios to make me a few dollars. Then after I got a little older, after I had that vision at this company in 1959, I started that motor and I put it on a shelf. And then on the years through the years there, I met a woman that really encouraged me to get it off the shelf and do something about it. I said, you know, I got several dreams I want to do. And she said, what? So one night I came home, brought an invention home after I'd been married to her for about 2 years. I dug it up out of the ground after it had been there for 21 years. It took me about 30 minutes to get it going, and you guys will see it today. It's called an air motor. Got it running, took me about 30 minutes. And she said, man, that is really neat. And I said, well, that's not it. I've got what's called a magnetic motor that runs off of a magnetic field. So she said, so I started it. I used to own a Corvette business. And so I said, only way I can do that would just be on the weekends. So I worked on the weekends on it. Then it got to a point that I couldn't do that, so I said, well, the best thing to do is just shut the business down, and I'd work on it full time. So I worked on it full time, built this big old prototype in my garage, and she said, I'll quit my job when I see it run. I was walking by, I had a hammer in my hand. Somehow I walked by one of those magnets, and it pulled on the wheels, and it got it running. And I hollered at her, and I said, well, the motor's running. 2 days later, she quit her job. So that's what we've been doing for the last 5 years into the technology. And from the magnetic motor, it has sprung out like a bunch of flies. I mean, all the technology is just coming to me like you wouldn't believe. And everything I built works. And I think it was 6 months later, it came back to me again, so I feel like God was trying to tell me something right then. That's the way I looked at it. And then I sketched it out on a piece of paper, and then probably a year later went by, I started building one of the old motors. I built a prototype, and I was just like all the inventors back then, skeptical about somebody going to shoot me, because I had this motor that was going to revolution the world. And so I put it up in the attic, and then I couldn't sleep at night. So the next day I got and I took it apart, and I hid it. Then I put it back together. Now, well, you know, then I'd look outside and see if anybody... Now I thought, well, man, that's what's called paranoid. That is paranoid, so I had to stop that. And once I started to quit being real paranoid, then my life changed around with the motor. So I just opened to it, and next thing I knew, I built this beautiful motor. It worked, and it's a motor that generates electricity. And from that motor came from other technology that how you can heat a home without gas, and I am really excited about that. I am really. And then I've got a motor called the Surge. Now I've got an electric car. Going to be doing an electric helicopter. That's really exciting. With my whole family. I'm the only one that's brown-eyed. All of my family's blue eyes. So I thought maybe somehow I'm different, you know. And the technology comes to me so fast, and I just can't understand. I couldn't understand my family, you know. I mean, I came from that family. Why didn't they have that? Why couldn't they get that? And then I found out later on in my life that my dad worked for a company called Texaco, and they had a problem in a oil tank. They would knock coke or something inside of the old charcoal or something on it. So he ended up building a wooden jackhammer, electric jackhammer. And my twin brother, I am a twin, and my twin brother's got that today. So he was really an inventor, but he didn't get anything out of it. So I think, in a way, that's where some of the jackhammer came from, was from that technology. And right today, they still use the technology in that company. I guess I've just been God trained. I mean, everything comes through me like it was really kind of strange. When I went to work, take an example, when I went to work for this company, the man asked me if I knew how to run a machine. I didn't know how to run a machine. Didn't even know how to turn it on. I was hired, and I went to the machine. I didn't even know where the switch was till I sat there and kept looking at it, and after I looked at the machine, I figured it out. And from that, my mind, when I can see something, I can do it. So I was a foreman for a company for a while in a machine shop, and enjoyed helping other people, trying to teach them. And it is just, here it is, laid out in my hand, just like a Bible. And like right now, I can pick up a book. I don't have to read it, but I can almost tell you what's in it. So why should I take time to read a book? I'm more interested in doing some of the technology that comes really into my head, and I get excited about that part, to go ahead and build that and get it finished and see if it works. And I haven't, it's never failed on me. Every time I build it, it works. And that's exciting. And if I had to go in my life today, have everything done for me, it would never get on the market, because there's where the inventors have a lot of problem. They got the good idea, but they got it on paper, and they don't know how to get it out. And if they go to a place, well, I'm afraid they're going to steal the idea, and sometimes it happens. It happens that way. I've got the knowledge. I can go out there and make anything I want. If it don't work, I can put it in a side, and I can pick it up later and probably make it work. And I can save myself a lot of money. And that's what has helped me in life. And it's really paid off, me being a machinist from years ago. And I'd like to help the world one of these days with the technology, and try to bring some of the technology that's in garages that people's put away. And what I really want to do is to have the largest invention in California that you could ever have in the world, and have all these inventors brought together and bring any kind of invention you got. I don't care what kind of invention it is. If it's a toothpick, it'll just blow and turn. I want them to bring it. And if we can do that in this world, we can get this technology out. But I say to inventors today, buddy, if you got any kind of invention, if you'll just stick it out and push it and push it and push it, you'll eventually make it. My dream in life was, let's have free energy. I'm talking about where you never have to pay an electric bill. Let's drive an automobile where you don't have to have gasoline to smell. Let's have heat where you don't have to burn gas and have fumes in homes. A lot of your people in homes die from gas heaters, because they're sleeping at night and they don't wake up because it's too late. But now I have got a technology, a system, that's the most incredible thing I've ever seen in my life. And when this object worked and started producing heat, I got excited about that, because I was saying to myself, hey, this technology, it's not just heating a home up. You can heat hot water up. You can do anything with it. If you can get heat, you can get electricity. Dennis Lee has got some technology of trying to, he gets energy from the heat from producing electricity. So now I've got, I got excited today. I got to show it to him, and he got excited about the technology. A lot of people, they say perpetual. I look at it this way. A perpetual is an object that you can spin it on the table and spin it, and it'll sit there and spin. But if you touch it, it's going to quit because it has no power. But the technology that I've got today, like the magnetic motor, is the closest to a perpetual motor that you could ever build. And a lot of people don't understand perpetual. They was brought up in life, and they hear it from other people, you know, well, It's a perpetual. That means it's a complete recycle system. You got to have some kind of source. Inventors make big mistakes in patents. What they do, they file different types of patents on different motors, like magnetic motors. If you word the invention right, it will go through. I've seen a couple inventors that they just raised all kinds of trouble with the patent office, and it created a problem for them. If you take a patent and you got an invention, if you write it all out and word it right and explain the difference in what another motor is, and don't get on this perpetual that you got a perpetual motor, the patent office, they don't like that word for some reason. And if you word it right and type everything out right and get your patent attorneys to word it right, it will go through with flying colors. Everybody would get a patent on what they've got if you word it right and explain to the patent office. The patent people up there, they're just normal people like us sitting behind a desk. And if you send a piece of paper and you got a drawing, and if it's not worded right and doesn't explain anything, they're going to kick it out. They can't help it because they don't understand it. So I would say to the viewers out there, if all the inventors would sit down and write everything out and explain one step at a time, you can get a patent yourself. My wife did that and didn't even have to go through the attorneys and stuff to get a patent. She filed it herself, she got it herself. It's the way you word it and how it'll go through. The biggest mistakes on motors that get kicked out of the patent office is because it's not explained right. First thing they do, they put it in there and they word it as a motor like a perpetual. You might as well forget it. There's so much technology out here in this world, and there's a lot of people who are afraid to bring it out. And I don't know why they want to be afraid. I really don't. The government is not after you to stop some of this technology. And I can tell you right now, face to face, where big inventors make the worst mistakes in their life is because they take stock across the state line. The government is not to try to stop you on your technology. Is the way you go back and start your, take an example. I talked to an inventor. He got excited about his technology and he needed the money. All inventors need money. It takes money to do it. So first thing they do, they take the money and they don't think about what they're doing. And they go to another state and they show the invention, and somebody, oh man, I'd like to help you or something. Well, yeah, he said, well, do you have any stocks? Well, yeah, we got stock. And he takes stock across the state line. That really ruins you right there because you're taking money across the state line. You need to take that as what you call a promissory note, guys. And I'm telling you right now, the people that's got these inventions get shut down is because they do it wrong. You will get shut down. If you meet the requirements, the government, they're behind you 100%. I met with some government people in Daytona, and they actually told me there should be more devices out like mine. Well, that made me feel good. But I've seen so many inventors being ruined just because they violated the security exchange laws. And you can't do that. I look at it this way. I met with an oil company. I won't say who it was. It was a company out of Texas. They came to me. They wanted to like put some money in the company, but the first thing I heard out of their mouth was, you know, well, this 61% that we've got. Well, wait a minute. There was no 61%. They can't work that way. 61%, that means they own 61% of your company. That means that they have got the control. That's what's wrong with the technology today. If you turn an invention over to somebody, if it's going to kind of change some problems around with some companies, they will up for a while. If you guys are watching this tape, if you will take and talk to other inventors that has had problems, they can help you 100%. 100%. There's not an inventor in the world won't take time and to try to explain. They'll explain something to you that where you make mistakes. If you make mistakes, you're going to make mistakes for a long, long time. I found that out. And the way I do, I love to help people. Oh, do I love to help people. I've had people bring things to me. I said, well, if you do this, you do that, you do this, it'll work. I don't care how long you live in this world. There's still going to be gas cars. There's no way in the world you're ever going to get away from this. Gas is here till you die. There may be some different solution. Dennis Lee has got some technology on a motor. I went to a thing last night, really, and I seen something that I was really excited about. You can drive a piston down. I haven't said anything to nobody about it, but I've got a motor out there right now that I'm working on, and it's really a secret project. And nobody knows about it. And I do it when I can. And I'm going to show one of these days that you can drive a piston down with a high voltage system. And it pushes the piston down. But my goal is in life, I've got a pressure motor that I just love. That's my favorite of them all. One of these days, you guys will see a air car out, and it will run from 0 to 5,000 RPMs real fast. Very powerful little motor. Ever since a permanent magnet motor was built, a DC motor was built, an AC motor that was built wrong. The whole system is wrong. The technology that I've got in a motor, and we've had it proven, and we've went and had torque tests on it and everything, and it will be over 100 or 200 years before anybody will ever top what I've got on a motor. I see a lot of good things happening. A lot of people think that it's going to hurt the comedy, but it's not going to do it. It's not going to hurt it. In fact, I think it's going to put more jobs out there than it is taking jobs. In fact, I can see right now today, some of the technology right now, if it was out, there would be more people back to work. You wouldn't have to put them on go down here and get them on welfare or Social Security or something like that. It's just the idea that they can get back to work and make some money. And that's the name of the game. Let's put everybody back to work that wants to work. A lot of people don't want to work. They don't want to do nothing. They got one thing in their mind is go home, watch TV, and do nothing else. They're set in their life, and there's no way where you can ever change them. But there's guys out there like us. I spent a lot of hours, a lot of hours, and I've went many times and started going home, seeing people playing tennis and swimming, and I thought, man, what am I doing? You know, I'm wasting my time. But I'm not wasting my time. I found out that now I've got technology that can help. Let's help the new growth that's growing up that can live in this world. I mean, us older people, you know, we'll be long and gone, but we still got this new generation moving up, and they've got to live in this planet. Good clean air, good clean water, and right now we have got one heck of a problem with water. They're adding more chlorine, they're adding more pollution stuff, and I went to up in the Carolinas, and I went on an RV park. I was blown away that all this sewage out in front of this RV sitting out there, and they was dumping it in the river, running off that into the river, killing the trout. And people are the ones catching the trout is the one that's eating it and getting sick. So we got to watch our food, what we eat, and get rid of all this pesticide. And let's get some new clean stuff out there we can put on something. If you want to kill a bug, let's kill a bug. I'm not out here to trying to be the only one in the whole world, change it around. I can't do it. I'm an environmental person, and I want to try to see if I can play my part in to see if we can clean this world up. Because 10 years from now, guys, I want to tell you something. It's going to be a terrible situation if we don't get some of this technology out to kind of clean it up, there is technology out there to get it cleaned up. So I think we ought to all stick together and really get with the program and do something with this world. This old motor, what they call the old clanker, has been around since about 1989. We unveiled it here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. There was a channel 2 and channel 6, and I think another channel was involved on it. We had a big unveiling on this old motor on December the 15th, 1989. On the 28th, I was interviewed on the air from a little program called For the People. There was a guy named Richard Hoagland, who's a dear friend of mine, and Chuck Harder was talking to me about the old magnetic motor. They got a hold of a videotape. Somehow they got excited about what was happening, and I understood that a lot of people had drove down the road and pulled off on their cars on the side of the road till the program was over. This old motor is what is the old wooden prototype that I had a vision of. This is the vision I was telling you about that kind of come up in the cloud a little bit that morning. And it came to me about 6 months later. All it is two wheels in the center that rotates, and they got magnets in it. And I have a crank over here, and a lot of the old videos are still out in the public, and they're still selling videos. I was told here not too long ago a guy had ordered a video out of a catalog of the old wooden prototype. They have copied it so much that it only hardly looked like the old original film. But this old wooden prototype, where people in life is trying to build what they call magnetic motors, and they always said something about, now if you really want to see something what they call closest to a perpetual motor you ever seen in your life would be this old wooden prototype. This is an old mechanical device. It's got 2 inner wheels on the inside and 2 outer shell wheels with magnets. They got 8 magnets on this side, 8 magnets on the inside here on the inside rotor. It's got a crankshaft. It's got 4 crankshafts throws in here. As a rod comes up here, I'll try to move it. If you can see it, I don't move it too much because I got it about disassembled here. But you can see one of these rods in this section here. This shaft up here comes from this crankshaft. As I was rotating it, as the motor rotates around, this shaft comes up to what they call an injector. An injector on this motor is made like a ballpoint pen. A ballpoint pen, if you turn it upside down and push it on a table, and then push it again, the pencil will jump. These injectors built up here, it acts just like a ballpoint pen. As the shaft runs up, it locks that pin in place. As the motor rotates over into the next one here, that unlocks that one there. As it rotates over this side on this motor here, it unlocks this one here. So what this motor is actually working, it's lock, push, and it sits there and works back and forth. It has to have something to push these old magnets over its point. Once the magnet is over to the center point in a magnet, if you put a magnet in the center like this, it will stay like that till it gets about just a few degrees over, and when it does, it jumps. It'll go one way or go backwards. This motor will run forward or backwards. That's the reason why you can work it either way. That means if you run it this way, all this here is backwards. If you run it forward, it all starts back normal. And how this old motor got cranked up was there was a crank on the side. You just cranked it up. But how you got this motor started, you had to come in the front of it, take both hands, and you had to rear back, and you had to get both wheels going at the same time because it had so much power it would twist the crankshaft as it flipped over. Once that motor was running in operation, turning, I ran over here and I grabbed this crank and I was cranking real hard till I felt it kick in. And once it kicked in, it drove a generator on this side here. It drove another little motor system over here. We had a battery hooked down to the bottom. Any time that you run a DC motor faster than the RPM that takes to run it becomes a generator automatically. So the energy that you're spinning out of a DC motor will put the amperage back in a battery. It takes 14.6 to charge a battery up, and as you're spinning this motor, it was putting out more than 14.6. As the generator was running, it lit an old light bulb up here at the top. We lit up these fog lights down here off of the battery, show that the battery was drawing energy from it as the motor was running. After it got into its RPM, it would charge, it would move this generator motor, a motor over here, turn and become a generator, and then it put the voltage back in the battery. The battery ran my lights. The generator on this side was a 110 generator. It was an old, the old generator, and we ran a vacuum cleaner. We ran a drill. I think on some of the old videos, some of that technology is still on it. But this right here, really, a person would really wouldn't get the feeling that I did the first day that this thing took off, because here you had an old wooden motor, and that's all it is wood motor. It's made out of plastic. The centerpieces in here are made out of aluminum. The centerpieces are made out of 303 stainless. This is a stainless rod running up through some bearings, through a piece of wood, and all it was just an old rough wooden prototype just to show that you could make a motor run. And one of these days this will be in a museum from an old wooden prototype. It's come down about 16 inches in diameter and 10 inches wide, and it'll kick out the voltage. This is a new prototype of the magnetic motor, and if you was looking at the old wooden prototype, the old wooden prototype was made out of wood. This motor is a motor that you can actually see and run, feel, touch, everything. You can do the other one, but it wouldn't be running very long because it would come apart. This motor, I can explain a little bit about what you call a magnetic field. All magnets, the big old wooden prototype, has a system. As the motor went over, it had a tension to jerk over like that. If you take this motor here and you take your finger and rotate it, it doesn't have that jerking in it. So what I've done, I got rid of the crankshaft. I've got rid of the injectors, and the system in this motor here, as you crank this motor up, and like you do the other one, the motor will start running, and what I'll do, I'll energize it on this motor here, and what we're going to do, if you can see these amp gauges over here, we've got a, that's probably generating some electricity now. This will come, when we get it up to about 150 volts, we'll unplug it and we'll turn the light on, and you'll be able to see the light bulb. The amperage over here will start dropping down a little bit. It's climbing to 100 volts right now. If you turn this around where you can see this side here, all the working parts is behind this system here, operates from a little computer. Takes just 5 volts. The motor generates about 300 volts. So if you can take 5 volts and make a motor run and kick out 150 volts, they're starting to whine. You can hear it. This motor right here will disintegrate. It would just keep on running because I got a big computer that controls this motor. It's 150 volts. What we're going to do turn off all the switches. Make sure there ain't nothing plugged into it. There's the plug. There's your 110 volts. Motor still running. You can operate this table plumb around. Still got energy running. Nothing tied up in the back of it. Nothing on the floor. Rotate around, still running electricity. So what we're going to do, let's run some motors off of this. So where you can see this motor running. Let's kill it down a little bit. It's still generating enough electricity in here to run in that motor. I've got two motors. One of them is called the surge motor, like I have in the car. That's 12 volts. Motor still pulsing from the energy that it's producing. If I hook this motor up right now to the DC side, it would blow that motor out, because right now I'm producing over 100 volts of DC. The motor has got nothing hooked up to it. Rotate it around. Nothing in the floor hooked up to it. Motor still running. Still running. Still generating electricity. It's running too much voltage for me to hook these motors up to it right now, but let's go ahead and let it run down there where we can get it down. I may have to slow it, try to put some pressure on it to stop it. So let me see if I can kick it down some more. Let's see what happens with this surge motor. In fact, let's just unhook the electric AC on part on it. And let's hook this motor here up to it. This one here is one I was looking for. Let's run this motor here off that motor. There's a motor. They're running a motor. So you can see the difference from that big old wooden prototype. Here we got a motor that's running a motor, generating electricity. It took probably about 3 years to build this motor here. Now this is really an exciting motor. If you want to see a magnetic motor, now this is one. When you can actually see a motor pulling a motor. Still kicking it out. And what's good about this, you're talking about electric automobiles, this right here can set it in the back of an electric automobile and generate electricity and charge batteries up in a car, especially the new battery that I got. And what we'll do, we'll go right into the battery part, since we're showing this, how this motor could actually charge that battery. Real simple. I can even crank this and charge that. This old prototype here, I got about $350,000 in that prototype, but it takes a lot of money to make something. So you can see there's nothing hooked up to the motor. The old motor will run. It'll keep pulsing, and once it gets into a stage, this motor will just keep on pumping. And if you let it go, there may be enough energy. If I rotate it just enough, we'll try to kick it around again. See it? It will try to kick that wheel around. I've come in mornings and I've had to put a screwdriver in it because the vibration where the other building I was would actually, I'd come in and this motor would be running. It would start moving, and once it started moving, then it just so happens I got there in time because it was running pretty fast. I come up with a new technology on a battery that I'm really blown away with. It's a technology that has no acid and has no lead. I've got a battery that weighs 14¼ pounds and it charges from 8 to 12 seconds to 200 volts. If you want 25 volts in it, you can put 25 in it up to 200 volts. We've come up with a new battery that has no lead or acid in it. This battery here is a plastic battery. The stuff that I have in it is called Secret. It's a material that it's been known for a long, long time. This battery weighs about 14¼ pounds. It's a completely total recycled battery. The tops of it are made out of brass. We're getting ready to hook a battery charger up on it. We've got a meter sitting here. We're going to show how many volts that we're going to put in that, and then I'm going to turn this light bulb on. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and turn this on up to high. I'm going to turn it on, and you can watch this meter, and I'm going to count seconds as fast as I can. So here I'm going to go. Let's turn it off. It's probably already charged, 94 volts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 123 volts we've got in that battery. That means that this battery here will turn that light bulb on. If we turn the light bulb off, now what we're going to do is turn this switch off, and the battery is charged with energy as long as it's pulsed in it, like the new technology that I've got. So let's take it back down. Let's bring her on down. It's got 35, 30, 26, 19. Let's drain it all back. And I'll show you all at once how fast we can do this. Let's go down to 6,432 milliamps, 1 milliamp. Nothing in it. Now we're going to take this, put this on high, and I will turn this down to low, and I'm going to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Full charge. 125 volts of DC to that battery. So this technology, as long as I energize it, it's got a pulsing system like I've got in the car, and the other technology will keep that battery full charged. This battery will hold up to 200 volts. It's designed to take 200 volts. It's designed to take 5 volts, 3 volts, any volts that I want. So this is really exciting, a breakthrough. This is off. We can unhook the battery like this. We can turn, there's nothing hooked to it except the meter. We can turn it on, and we got electricity out of that battery. You can get it down, it'll hold 83 volts. You want to get it down, we can hold, I can go down to a normal battery, 6 volts. And take it on down. It'll go down. That's exciting. It's some new breakthrough on a new type battery. I got something really exciting to show you. I came across some technology that I didn't think that anybody could ever come up with it. And it's really exciting. And I don't think anybody can come up with it. It's a concept, that a system that floats in a magnetic field. That means nothing touches. If nothing touches, people say, well, how can things create heat if nothing touches? You always got to have some kind of friction to make heat. Well, that's not true. I proved it here on some technology, and I built a blower. Now, we're talking about home use. We're talking about airplanes, cars, especially electric automobiles today. They're trying to figure out how they're going to heat them because they have no radiator to heat water up. Well, this technology right here, I got right here, you could hook this to your back wheel and spin it, and you got free heat because there's no drag on it. So what we're going to do, we're going to start this little blower up here. We're going to take a thermostat gauge, and we're going to stick it in the front of it, and we're going to show you how the temperature will rise. And you can, we ran it for 5.5 hours, and it reached 170 degrees. We blew cold air in it, and it dropped 1 degree. That shows you something. That means you can have hot water. You can take a copper unit, tie it into this in the front of the blower, blow hot air in a copper tube. And people was talking about oil. That's something else I got on the subject one day about this. I said, you know what? I can help the oil fields because they got a problem with what's called sludge in oil tanks. They have to take propane and run a big rod or some kind of gas up into a tube to heat this oil in an oil tank. Think about that. That is something that takes a lot of energy and a lot of gas and pollute too by the time it comes back out. Okay, this system here can do the same thing, blowing hot air into a tube and heat the oil up in the bottoms of the tanks. That means that they can get the bottoms out of the tank and the oil will be. So what we'll do, we'll start it up. It's going to make a little bit of noise, but in the future, the motor that we got for this is real quiet. You can take a windmill, you can take a big pulley on a windmill, condense it to a small pulley. You got nothing. Now, to me, that is what you call perpetual because you got wind blowing, that is Mother Nature blowing. Here you end up with good heat, nothing hooked to it except the wind blowing the wheel. So let's hook it up. It's 110 motor. What happens as this spins in this field, this heater becomes hot. So we got a thermometer here, and I should have stuck it in the ice box and got it down to 0. But let's just take an example. Let's just stick this in here and watch that gauge. This is what you call, to me, free heat. You can get down in the front of this. You don't have to worry about gas. Let's just set it up. Let's just actually run it up to 120 degrees and it'll show you what it'll do. Okay, we've got a little over 125 degrees here. We'll go up to about 130, but this heating system will go on up to 170 degrees, and I've pegged it at 212. This is really exciting technology. That means you can heat your homes, your planes. You go out in the middle of the desert, hook it to a windmill, and you can keep warm at nighttime. It's got so many applications to it. It's a beautiful piece of machinery. It's a beautiful piece of machinery, and what I'm really excited about this now, this will stay hot. This will stay hot. If I put this in here, that switch won't blow now. If I put that in there, if I can reach it in there, the heat will come on way up there. See, it's rising there, and I'm just touching it. It'll just come on up. Man, this is for the future. This is a brand new system. We just got this built here. I did a demonstration with a little prototype to see if it worked or not, and it worked. Now we came from this to a bigger one. This is exciting. Since I like to invent things, this is a motor that I was talking to earlier in the film, that I had come up with a motor that I had buried for about 21 years. This is the motor. This is what you call an air motor. You can turn this motor upside down. You can turn this motor upside down, it'll run. It's like giving a gas feed. All you do is just insert the little air. It's like using a gas feed. The motor could be driven from the back wheels. The way I designed this valve in this is to you put a use this as a back wheel system. You know, work as it turns. Or you can make it fix this into a car and drive a transmission off this side here, and then you can drive an automatic transmission with it. I'm really, out of all the little toys that I have, I would say my toys that I built, to me this is my favorite one of them all. And this will be, I've kept this on the back burner for a long, long time, and I know as soon as we get through with all the other technology, I'm going to take time and I'm going to put a air car together. And now I found out that I can recycle my air, and that way I can have my free cycle system in a complete loop, and I can drive anywhere I want to with this. I am really when one kid said, I'm really jacked out of my mind about it. So that's the way I feel about this little, and my wife really, out of all the units that I've got, she feels like she likes this one the best too. But you can run Pepsi through it and drink Pepsi out the other end, it won't hurt you. You can run oil through it, you can hook anything to it and it'll run, as long as it's got a little bit of pressure. That's the reason why one of these days, and if I die, I told my son I would like to have him to follow in my footsteps and take this and build the pressure car. He knows all about the technology. So it's really exciting. I'm proud of this. We was talking earlier about the heat system that I came up with to create heat. This system here kind of is a spin-off from my heater. I designed a wheel in here that water can come in here and hit this wheel and turn that shaft, and the water, as the wheel gets hot like my heater, that means it could be a recyclable system to heat water. And I built this in here for a swimming pool, and you might as well use the energy off of your swimming pool pump, because I run mine like 24 hours a day, and you might as well use the energy. So you hook this in line, let your water pressure turn that wheel, the wheel turns, gets hot, comes out with hot water, and goes back in and recycles in your swimming pool. So this technology here spins off from my heater. You can actually put a little generator and might as well run some lights around your pool, so you pull any energy from your house. So if there's anything in the world that I like to do, is let's see if we can't get some energy out there and use our energy to produce energy where you don't have to pay a large electric bill. There's more people being born every day than people are dying. And what's going to happen to this planet that we get overpopulated, and it's going to take bigger generator systems to power the whole state. And it bothers me a little bit, because if you think about it, kids grow up fast now. I mean, they're moving out of houses. I've seen kids move out of houses at 16 years old. And they're going to live in an apartment. They've got to pay an electric bill. That just means they got to build more homes, more apartments. And let's see if we can put a stop to it, and see if we can't help the electric company to not put so much big units on this planet and trying to use all this other type technology, because we want to live. And then after I die, on my tombstone, I want to say, here lies a very comfortable man, because I know one of these days I've done something for this planet, and I want to leave all this behind where somebody can pick up and spin off with new technology that I've got. We've got a motor here it's called the surge technology. It's the same technology we have in the car. This motor is a very powerful motor. It's a three-stage system that you can go to 12, 24 to 36. This is going to be the new motor, little motorcycle motor. I'm kind of proud of that motor. That is my design. It's an air-cooled motor. I made it special, wound it, put her together, and as soon as I hooked it up, it worked perfect. The motor doesn't get hot. It's a it's all aluminum housing on it, and I like the design, so I stayed with that design there. So I hope one of these days that when you out running around, you see a motorcycle with that motor in it, you know where it come from. This motor here with a low side on it, 12 volts, will create 2 horsepower. That's a lot of horsepower for just 12 volts. You go to 24 volts, you end up with more horsepower. You go to 36, you end up with more horsepower. So this right here will really drive a little scooter like a moped down the street. Now see the technology from this right here and the battery system. All you need is 2 little battery packs in this motorcycle. So if you take an example of Japan, China, where there is a lot of bicycles and scooters has been ridden, that creates a lot of pollution on motorcycles, what they've got over there. I've been to Seoul, Korea, and I know with the close small cars over there that there's a lot of pollution is starting to get around in some of this between the buildings, and there's where you get your pollution. So let's take this technology, let's put it to work, get other inventors out there involved, and let's get some of this energy running around on the street, and let's stop some of this pollution. Oh, I forgot to tell you about the technology on this. We had the amperage on it, and when you put a load on it, the amperage, the amps go down. So, see, the technology is when you're putting loads on motors, the amperage goes up on it. So let's cut the amperage down on it, and then you can go farther. That's what the whole technology is about electric automobiles. If you can get the amperage down, you can go for a long, long ways. You get a lot of amperage up, you ain't gonna go very far. So the technology we have, did some testing with the meters on this, and the amperage really drops down pretty fast. The main key about automobiles today is they drive a car and the amperage will go up on it. If you're driving 50 mile an hour, 60 mile an hour, amperage keeps going higher because it takes more voltage to input, and the amperage has got to drive that motor. Well, if you got what you call a pulsing system, and since I discovered that the DC motor was actually built wrong, then I come up with a technology on it. Now, as you drive an electric car, the amperage will go down instead go up because it's a pulsing system, and that you don't have to have what you call a real huge large motor to run an electric car. Beautiful automobile. You can drive it anywhere you want to. You don't pollute the air. You can sit there and lay behind it on a blanket, sleep all day, and it won't kill you. This technology is a 1993 Geo Metro. We got a small motor underneath the hood. And the technology is called a surge. It's a pulsing system. That means that the amperage goes down instead of the amperage going up. So that's what all the people that has developed, trying to develop electric cars, has got a problem with it. So now I come along with my surge technology. Now I think maybe that with some stronger engineers down the line could really improve what I've got. And I would be tickled to death to help them. But I'm doing real good with what we got. I'm planning on later on driving this across the state. But I don't know exactly right now when. Is when we get ready, we will do it, and there'll be a lot of people know about it when we go. It's called the Surge 1. The tag says Surge 1. We're very proud of this car. What I like about this car, this is an automatic transmission car where a woman or any young girl that's got driver's license can drive this car. All the other electric automobiles that I've actually seen has been nothing but this standard transmissions. And I know there's some ladies that have problems driving a standard transmission. Some of them are real good about it. A lot of them drive pickups. But now we developed a car that any woman can jump in this car and go to the grocery store and not have to worry about shifting any gears. There's not a whole lot of what you call junk, I would call, under cars. I've seen a lot of electric cars that had a lot of stuff in it. The only thing that this has a battery to run the radio, the blower. We've got two safety switches over here that can be mounted into an enclosed system, but we did this where you could see, where people can see this car with the technology. It's a safety switch system. This is a controller box, a Curtis control box. It cuts the amperage down. So with the amperage, here's what's real good about electric automobiles. All electric automobiles that has surge technology with this in it, they create heat. They've got to have a fan to blow this Curtis controller off because it gets hot. We don't want that to get hot. We want to stay that cold, because once it stays cold, you save on all the computer chips that's in this controller. So that means you can go farther, longer, and you don't have no problems. This electric automobile has got two gauges in front of the shifter on the automatic transmission. It's called the voltage and the amperage. That's what I was talking about earlier about amperage on automobiles. Let's see if we can't get the amperage to go down instead of going up. The voltage on this here should say somewhere around 120 volts. When we start out, there's no amperage at all. So the gauges is down below here, and we're getting ready to take and go drive the car, and you can see for yourself what it does. I've got two switches that I turn, three switches I turn on. The key, I turn on one switch for the battery pack, and all you do is just take and put it in gear, and the motor sounds like a little sports car. Shifts, runs good, fantastic automobile. If you'll see the amperage on the gauge, see it going down? The amperage goes way down. That's what I like about an electric car. If you floorboard the car, the most it will do would just be about maybe 100 amps. And that's what we want to do. By floorboard the electric car, called the Surge, will not pull over a little over 100 amps. This is all automatic. You can start off dead. What you want in automobiles, you want to see this drop. That means if you go faster you drive this car, lower the amperage will drop. I like the Surge. It's a quiet car. You can go anywhere on the highway. You can keep up with the traffic. It's got overdrive in it. It's got passing gear. So it'll go anywhere really anybody wants to go. If you want to take a trip, you don't have to worry about it, go plug it in the house, because it's called the Surge technology. It's a beautiful automobile, and I love it, and I've put a lot of hard work in this car, and we're going to make it. I want it where you can actually do this like go to a bank and borrow the money if you want to, or pay cash for it, and you got a car you ain't going to have no trouble with it. You don't have no oil, no gas to fool with. And I like about the new technology on the battery. That way you have no lead, and you can not have to go throw it in landfills. And the technology is here. See you around. This is your future, people. If every man and woman on the earth give God the glory, He will protect you, and He can take it away from you as fast as He can give it to you. So if you do the right thing in life and love each other and give other people helping hands, you know, this would be a completely different world.
If you were fascinated by the amazing technologies and concepts you've just witnessed, now you can get even more valuable information and details from the new Energy series. 5 full-length videos, 9 hours of in-depth conversations and demonstrations of free energy systems. Explore the worlds of inventors and theoretical physicists who are changing the paradigms of science. Volume 1 features Tom Bearden.
In particle physics, any electrical charge is automatically a broken symmetry. Now, what this means is there is a virtual photon flux, a violent flux exchange between the vacuum itself, which is filled with this virtual photon flux.
Volume 2, John Hutchison.
I feel that is also true. I think the mind can act as also a cohere frequencies and transmit them out, and then lock this doorway into space and time.
This motor here drew 12.5 amps.
Volume 3, Joseph Newman.
This motor right here only draws 7.5 amps. And look at the size of the propeller. Look at the size of the propeller. Look at the size of the motor. Look at the size of the motor. Now, this is exactly what I teach throughout my book. I taught it to Dr. Hastings. I've taught it to the world, that the larger you make the mass, then the smaller amount of power it will take and the more power it will produce.
Volume 4 highlights Troy Reed.
This is an old mechanical device. It's got 2 inner wheels on the inside and 2 outer shell wheels with magnets. They got 8 magnets on this side, 8 magnets on the inside here.
Let's see what kind of torque we got at 75 psi.
Volume 5, Dennis Lee.
Okay, here goes. Maxed it out. So it went all the way off the end of this thing, 150 foot-pounds of torque. This engine.
They're just $29.95 for each tape.
Now the process
or get all
here,
5 for $119.95, a savings of $30. Place your order today. Call 1-800-795-TAPE, T-A-P-E. Or write to Lightworks Audio and Video, Post Office Box 661593, Los Angeles, California, 90066. And now you can order this and many other fine tapes on the internet at www.lightworksav.com. That's lightworksav.com, as in Lightworks Audio and Video.